From 9 to 5, my eyes are glued to a computer screen. After hours, I'm a totally different person.
All week long, I crack the books.
Then comes the weekend.
At school, they teach me architectural drafting. In my spare time, I'm the one that sends out messages. Delta Foxtrot, Lima Juliet Radio.
I spend half my life sending out memos to my salespeople, making sure they meet the company's quotas.
The other half gets just a little more physical. You've been watching some pretty ordinary Canadians. People just like you or your next-door neighbor. But we've chosen to do something out of the ordinary with our lives. Something that sets us apart, makes us a little bit special. We're all part of Canada's reserve force, and as such, we devote much of our spare time to the country. Why do we do it? There are almost as many reasons as there are reservists.
I joined because I was interested in motor mechanics. Where else could I get a chance to work on a machine like this and get paid for it? Let's face it, we can all use a few extra dollars these days. But this is like getting paid for having fun.
The work I do with Communication Reserve is interesting and exciting, but there's a lot more to it than that. Before I joined, I was so shy I could barely carry on a conversation without feeling embarrassed. But 4 years in the reserve has really changed my life. Now I have the self-confidence I've always wanted. And I'm not afraid of new challenges.
The reserve is not like civilian life. It doesn't work like civilian life. But all the technical and leadership skills you learn in the reserve can benefit everything you do.
Hi, Mish.
This is Captain Mark Johnson, and I'm Lieutenant Mishu Everett, and we're here to tell you something about Canada's Reserve Force.
So far, the people you've seen make life in the reserve sound pretty good, and it is.
That's true, but chances are you're still wondering what it's all about, where the reserve came from, what it can do for you, and what you must do for it if you decide to make it part of your life.
Over the next few minutes, we're going to answer all those questions and tell you how to find out all the details about life in the reserve.
When Canada was very young, its military was made up of citizen volunteers who were ready to bear arms whenever a crisis arose.
With the outbreak of World War I in 1914, thousands of volunteers were assembled through reserve units to form the basis of our overseas force.
Throughout World War II and the Korean conflict, our Ready Reserve distinguished itself by supporting the standing army in the cause of world peace.
Peacekeeping continues to be a primary duty with the Canadian military, both regular and reserve, serving in a number of foreign postings.
Today, the reserve is more active than ever, with all 4 elements training right across Canada.
Elements are what we call the different commands: Army, Air Force, Communication, and Navy. Each one has very specific responsibilities.
There's a video available about each command, which you can see at recruiting centers or reserve units. But what do you say we show a little preview?
Good idea. Let's start with communication.
There are communication reserve units across Canada, and lots of communication people are assigned as support personnel to other military units.
After receiving their basic military training, people in communication take up a variety of trades, from radio teletype operator to lineman.
The communication video is called Get the Message. If you think Communication Reserve might be for you, have a look at it.
There's been a Naval Reserve in Canada since 1913, and today there are active reserve units in major cities from coast to coast.
The Naval Reserve's role is to enhance the operational capabilities of the maritime force during war or in peacetime.
That's right, Mishu. And now the Naval Reserve is playing a key role in our country's maritime coastal defense.
Haven't we been sending members of the reserve to train with the Royal Navy Reserve in Great Britain?
Yes, we have a new class of maritime coastal defense vessel, most people call them minesweepers, coming into use. And some naval reservists have experienced training tours with the Royal Navy Reserve and the naval reserves of other NATO countries.
Will the reservists be serving on these new ships?
Yes, it will be a primary reserve task. Maritime coastal defense is one of Naval Reserve's new missions, and much of the training will be slanted in this direction.
Sounds like exciting times ahead.
Yes, and lots of opportunities for people in Naval Reserve. Anyone interested should take the time to look at Smooth Sailing, the Naval Reserve video.
Now we're getting into my kind of stuff.
Let's not show any favoritism here.
Oh, sure. Wait till we start telling them about the militia, then we'll see favoritism.
Guess you're right. We can't help supporting our own element.
It's easy if you're part of Air Reserve. Anyway, the Air Reserve's got a lot to offer, especially if you're into airplanes and flying.
I guess you spend a lot of time in the air.
Not necessarily. We don't really need a lot of pilots, but there are all sorts of jobs from aero engine technician to administration. Like everyone else in the reserve, we're ready to work with the regular force anytime, anywhere.
The Air Reserve does a lot to assist civilian authorities as well.
That's right. We get called on by civilian authorities to do such things as medical evacuations and take part in ceremonial and sporting events. It's all part of providing service to the community.
You've got a video too, right?
It's called Take Flight. You can find it at any Air Reserve unit or at the recruiting centers. This is what you've been waiting for, right?
It is what I know best.
So, tell us.
The militia is somewhat more complicated than other elements of the military.
What do you mean?
To begin with, we've got more people than any other branch, and we have a wide variety of occupations from which to choose.
You mean you can be in the militia but still have a range of different choices?
Yeah, there's artillery, armor, armored vehicles like Cougars, infantry, engineers, the people who build bridges and lay mines, medical companies, and service battalions. They're the ones who maintain the vehicles and tasks like that.
What's the militia video called?
At the ready. You should see it. Maybe you'll switch commands.
Not likely. But I'll bet there are lots of people that will be interested.
I hope we've created some interest in all elements of the reserve. But some of you will want more information.
You've probably got questions about things like what the reserve can do for you, how much you get paid, the amount of time you have to commit, and so on.
Here's how it works.
You've got to be 17 or older and have at least grade 10 education to join the reserve.
And everyone has to be medically fit.
That's right. You'll be given a medical examination.
And you've got to be of good character.
Yes. There'll be a security screening and we'll check out everything you tell us.
And don't forget, prospective members must be Canadian citizens or have permanent resident status with a citizenship waiver.
That last part sounds complicated.
Not really. Any recruiting center will give you all the details.
Two of the most frequent questions are, do I have to sign a contract, and how long do I have to serve?
Unlike the regular force, reserve members can resign on request during peacetime. That means there's no contract and no set term of service.
But you shouldn't join at all unless you can commit enough time to make it worthwhile for yourself and the reserve.
Generally speaking, you're expected to train for a minimum of 1 night a week and 1 weekend a month.
Lots of people put in more time than that, especially when they're in leadership positions or taking specialist courses. Then there's summer training. We like to see members spend 2 weeks if it's possible.
If people have the time, there are often openings for full-time summer jobs. And elements like the Navy have extended training periods available for both commissioned and non-commissioned members.
By the way, commissioned members are called officers. They're the people who have trained to become leaders, ready to accept the planning and implementation responsibilities which go along with their rank. Non-commissioned members play more of a hands-on role and have the high degree of technical training which equips them to carry out their assigned tasks.
Of course, anyone can move up through the ranks. You might join as a non-commissioned member and eventually become an officer. Promotions are based on merit and qualifications. Everybody's performance is assessed each year.
Training in the reserve is first-rate. It's on a par with the regulars now that we're working under the total force concept.
Total force means that the reserve and the regulars are able to work together because the training and the standards are the same.
As reservists, it might take us a little longer to progress.
That's only because we work in the military part-time. But once we're qualified, we can step in and work right alongside regular military personnel, anytime, anywhere.
These days, the pay is pretty good as well. You'll get an established rate according to your rank and occupation. With regular reserve training, you'll get a check once a month, and for any full-time work, it's every 2 weeks.
There's also a great package of benefits, including things like extended medical and dental coverage. The benefits are better than in any other part-time career I've heard of.
All uniforms and equipment are provided by the military, but you're expected to maintain everything in a presentable working condition.
And if your tasks require you to be away from home overnight, we'll supply all meals and accommodation.
That's the nuts and bolts, as it were, about joining the reserve. But there's a lot more to it than just uniforms, pay schedules, and benefits. It's the intangible things, the things that are hard to put into words, that you can fully understand only if you're in the game.
Up 10, tuck, shoulder, arm.
You'll find the reserve to be an ongoing challenge, and the rewards are there if you work for them. But don't be fooled. Some things never change. Things like discipline, regimentation, and down-to-earth hard work. You get a lot of personal pleasure and satisfaction. But just like everything else in life, it's not all fun and games.
I was worried about military discipline and regimentation when I first joined. And in a sense, I was right. Everybody has to learn how to march. It's part of working as a team, being part of the military family. It's not so easy, especially when you're new to the job. But as hard as it is, your basic military training is essential. And believe me, the system works.
You get really tired sometimes, like during the long hours of a training weekend or on summer exercises.
You're pushed, you're on edge, and you might not have much time to yourself for days on end, but it lets you find out how good you are. When it's all over, there's a feeling of accomplishment and pride that makes all the rough times worthwhile.
Finished?
Yep.
If you don't want to make a few sacrifices, don't join. It's that simple. Okay, I admit it. I had my doubts at first. I mean, sure, there's no contract and all that, but I knew my life would change. You've got to put in the time if you're going to get anywhere. But you know, this is an exciting lifestyle with a new challenge every time you turn around. And the people that you work with are the greatest. Second to none. You'll make friendships that will last a lifetime.
So that's the reserve. It's not for everybody, but if you've got that special something and want to serve your country and get some experience that just might change your life, then the sky's the limit.
Or the land, or the sea. Visit a recruiting center or reserve unit near you and get some more information about the best part-time career around.
You won't be sorry if you take a few minutes to discover the chance of a lifetime.